New battle over the palace. Harry and Meghan's awkward royal snub. Harry and Meghan have turned their backs on one of Kate Middleton's most personal projects in a snub to the palace. One of the often overlooked job requirements for a working member of the royal family is a willingness to always be a good sport. A good sport about proffering up your newborn baby to a greedy, eager world within hours of the birth. A good sport about being made to play cricket and rugby in heels. A good sport about donning a slightly ridiculous getup when required. For example, a good sport when some palace aides have the bright idea to make 3 HRHs don matching Bjorn Borgest headbands for a dignity-defying photo op. I present you with this treat of an image of William and Kate, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, with Prince Harry grinning like 3 eager step-parents at their first school sports day. It was 2016 when the 3 royals came together in aid of Heads Together. They just announced their mental health initiative, which is, to this day, one of the greatest achievements any of them have notched up. What made Heads Together so potent an undertaking wasn't the idea of the unity-varying charities, but that the 3 young royal stars were all personally tackling the stigma surrounding the issue. In a statement at the time, Kensington Palace said that it was the biggest single project their Royal Highnesses have undertaken together. All of this is firmly established in history, and all of this is what makes one particular move Harry and wife Meghan have made in recent days particularly eyebrow-raising. This week, the world watched horrified as the Taliban reclaimed Afghanistan. On Wednesday, Harry issued a joint statement with the Invictus Games Foundation, urging military veterans to offer support for one another. Before the following day, the Sussexes put out their own personal statement. They talk a lot, especially the Duchess one. She loves to talk and write. There's no gauge to measure their sincerity level. Pretty much everything written comes from Miss Henry, obviously, because it's always her vernacular and her buzzwords. I'd love to hear from Harry. I mean, directly from Harry's own brain to heart to mouth connection. No prepared Meghan script because she really doesn't know much, and she sure as hell doesn't know anything about the military. Full disclosure, I don't know if there's more to it than just this quote, or if there's a context that I'm missing. But reading this, I have to wonder just how deluded are these two? They're speechless? They're heartbroken? Who the hell are they that we should care about how they feel about situations which have literally nothing to do with them? Is there some reason why their feelings are, in even the smallest way, relevant to Afghanistan and Haiti? Afghanistan and Haiti are not recalcitrant children that these two self-obsessed, obnoxious people can scold into behaving properly. There are actual people actually suffering in those places, but these two, from the comfort of their own mansion, seem to think that the world needs to pay attention to their distress. Straighten up, world. Stop making Harry and Meghan feel bad. Honestly, the depth or height of their self-absorption and inability to understand their own relevance, or lack thereof, in the world is breathtaking. Maybe we should call our local news outlets and issue statements, because let's face it, we are at least as relevant to Afghanistan and Haiti as these two self-absorbed, egotistical nitwits. And where things start to get a tad sticky is the handy resources and selection that they included, following their statement on their website, which offered up a selection of charities to support and mental health resources. On this front, their suggestions were the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the Loveland Foundation, and Project Health Minds. Very conspicuously not on the list, you spotted it, I'm sure, Heads Together. Why, oh why, wasn't the very successful mental health organization that Harry himself co-founded on the list? Accidental or a planned approach? In light of the recent events and times, given the brotherly feuding, the score-setting TV outbursts, and thin-lipped leaking to the media, the question is, was the decision not to include Heads Together simply accidental or more of a pointed move? Was this down to a simple consequence of not having all the American team of functionaries and aides myopically focused on all things stars and stripes? or a more calculated omission. In fact, none of the three mental health organizations suggested by Team Archwell were British. There can be no real question anymore about which side of the pond their priorities lie. It is a curious situation, given that it was under the British flag that Harry so bravely served those 2 tours on the front line in Afghanistan. It was while being airlifted back to the UK in his 2012, his second tour, and alongside several badly wounded soldiers, that he made the decision to dedicate himself to supporting veterans and to raising awareness of the invisible injuries they suffered. His full-throated dedication to this cause, more than his baby charming skills and cheeky chappy antics, is what endeared the royals not to only the UK, but the world. So given all this, why not include heads together? Does Harry's staff seem to think that when he entered U.S. airspace in 2020, it was sort of a tabula rasa moment, and that it all came before was no longer of any consequence? If Harry and Meghan had taken the couple's Afghanistan statement as a moment to include heads together, it would have sent a very powerful signal that when they trotted out of the Westminster Abbey approximately 89 months ago, he had not turned his back on his homeland. Well, it feels that long ago to me, and that even though his relationship with his family might have entered such fraught territory that they need to keep their own battalion of blue beret-wearing peacekeepers, he still values and takes satisfaction from the very good work that he did under the royal banner. On a personal level, Harry's relationship with his brother and sister-in-law look markedly different today than it did 5 years ago, when they gamely wore those headbands, but why not take a moment to recognize that the three did great work together? To take a moment to be proud of what he had achieved as an HRH would not for a second make him a traitor to his new life with Meghan or to the painful personal journey that got him there. The inclusion of heads together would have been read as a tentative gesture of goodwill towards the palace, were it not being talked of Mark's throwing sentence, and would not be so refreshing to see a cooler and more matured head prevail, for once. We've come a long, long way from silly headbands and giggles. Sigh. If only we could knock our heads on our own choosing, right? As we watch helplessly as the copious amounts of bullshit flows freely onto Montecito, we are left stunned, shocked, horrified, appalled, open-mouthed, helpless, aghast, disgusted, incredulous, revolted, numb, and verging on suicidal. You are of no importance in Afghanistan and Haiti and have absolutely zero influence on their words. How do you even feel the many layers? Why do you just sit and watch the growing humanitarian disaster? It's just cheap word speak, signifying nothing because you merely wail about your feelings in response to their horrors. Your egos are too inflated to embrace real humanitarianism. You are neither influencers nor enablers. You are not a force for good. You are a force for polarization and division. If you would only learn to shut the F up, you would instantly alleviate the suffering that you've personally inflicted on the world that is being constantly exposed to your inane drivel and saccharine ramblings. There's already more than enough global distress to go around without you adding to it.